Now is the time and opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Thank you. We really want to welcome you, honorable members, the staff from the Department of Defense, and our military veterans. You are heartily welcome, and all the guests in the house. I will now call on the secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 22, Defence and Military Veterans Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. We now call on the Honorable Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Honorable Nosiviwe Mapisa. Ngakula. Yes. Maybe before you start, Minister, let me just some few things that members of the public, the rules of Parliament do not allow you to take pictures in this house. Please observe all the processes of this house. Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, Deputy Minister KB Maphatsuwe, Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee, members of the extended public debate, the Secretary for Defense and senior managers of DOD, the Chief of the South African National Defense Force and members of the Military Command Council, our military ombuds, General Matanzima retired, senior managers of the Department of Military Veterans, distinguished guests, our members joining us through the live feed from our bases. Ndiyabulisa kuni botata no mama, our veterans who are here this morning, and thank you for coming in to support us. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all on the occasion of the presentation of our budget to the Extended Public Committee of the National Assembly. In particular, allow me to introduce our new Deputy Minister, KB Maphatsuwe, who has joined our team in the ministry in the new term of the administration. I also want to welcome both our returning and new committee members of the Portfolio Committee members and those that will serve on the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. Allow me to recognize various stakeholders and guests, amongst whom are the stalwarts and veterans of our armed forces, including members of the Lutuli Detachment and First High Command of Umkhonto weSizwe, members of communities, and representatives of the defense industry. Let me start by inviting all of us to give a thought once more to the plight of the people of Gaza in Palestine, who are currently caught up in a campaign of military aggression by the Israeli government. We support the initiative of the President of the Republic of South Africa and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to send a special envoy to Palestine and Gaza. Today we convene to participate in the debate for the budget vote for both the Department of Defense and the military veterans. This specific debate is singularly the most important in a long time, considering it's coinciding with the tabling of the 2014 Defense Review for finalization by Parliament, and following a few months after we gazetted the military veterans regulations. The finalizing of these two processes constitute an important part of the strategic basis of our work in the next 5 years and our planning processes for the entire medium-term strategic framework. 20 years since the birth of the South African National Defence Force as a single, united national asset, the country is engaged in a useful but long overdue public discourse about the mandate and scope, the design and resourcing of the Defence Force going into the future. This discourse, based on the 2014 Defence Review, is finally now here in Parliament, and accordingly, therefore, must constitute a significant part of the budget debate today. Chairperson, it is important for me to outline the basic focus of the debate from the outset so that the expectation of both Parliament and the South African people are aligned to our thinking about what this debate should achieve. While there are many current topical issues and ongoing programs within the defense environment, our work in this financial year has to be subject to the implementation program of the Defence Review once finalized by Parliament. We do hope, therefore, that given its centrality to our planning, Parliament will treat the finalization of the review as a matter of critical urgency. Honourable members will recall that in adopting the current Defence Review for tabling in Parliament, Cabinet directed, and I quote, that the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans ensure that the military strategy, force structure, force design, capability, acquisition plans, and funding trajectory are translated into long-term defense development program, which is aligned and integrated into government planning cycle, close quote. This task constitutes the broad programmatic trust of the ministry and its two departments. The ministry has, in the meantime, created a full-time capacity to develop a methodology for implementation of the Defence Review once finalized by Parliament. We are looking at a defence development program spanning 20 years, divided into 4 medium-term strategic framework periods of 5 years each. The first one is the current MTSF from 2014 to 15 to 2018-19 financial years. The next 5 years strategic program of the ministry shall be based in the main on those aspects of the Defence Review for the first MTSF period. The strategic intent of the ministry in the next 5 years will be built into the planning cycle of government and shall be aligned to support the National Development Plan, the New Growth Path, and the Industrial Policy Action Plan. In addition, it is also going to be important that the implementation of the Defence Review takes into consideration the tasks and commitments for defence arising from the new national security strategy. At a cluster level, the Department of Defence should be positioned to support the objectives of the JCPS cluster based on Outcome 3 of the MTSF and Vision 20. In order to realize the vision, the cluster has committed to reducing levels of contact crime, ensuring an efficient and effective criminal justice system, ensuring that our borders are effectively defended, protected, secured, and well managed, securing of cyberspace, ensuring domestic stability, and securing the identity of all South Africans. The introduction of this long-term planning brings greater coherence and continuity to our planning system and towards the achievement of the vision and goals of our country. The question crucially posed by the review is, what is it that we want the Defence Force to do here at home, in the region and the rest of the continent? Once that question is definitely answered, adequate resources must be allocated to enable the Department of Defence to execute its mandate with the requisite effectiveness and efficiency. Chairperson, honourable members, despite the constraints mentioned above, the Defence Force has performed admirably well. This was acknowledged by the Commander-in-Chief, President Jacob Zuma, when we marked the Armed Forces Day on the 21st of February this year. As we celebrate our 20 years of democracy and of the creation of the South African National Defence Force, we salute our men and women in uniform for a job well done at home and in the rest of the continent. But as we look forward to the next 20 years, we must take all measures to ensure that the Defence Force is not handicapped in any way in the execution of its mandate. The current Defence Review report makes recommendations on the assumption that the military will continue to have four main responsibilities, and namely, 1, to defend and protect South Africa, 2, to safeguard its borders and infrastructure, 3, to promote peace and security in the continent, 4, to perform developmental and other tasks assigned to it. On the basis of this assumption, the review recommends that we strive to achieve 5 key milestones, which are 1, to arrest the decline of the Defence Force, to rebalance the force by reprioritizing, to ensure capacity meets current needs, and lastly, to develop capacity to meet future challenges, to build and strengthen and to deal with a limited war should the need arise. These milestones, if accepted by Parliament, will have to be implemented within the set timeframes coinciding with the government planning cycle. Over the next 5 years, as part of the first milestone, the Ministry will focus on the following strategic areas. Firstly, ensuring strategic leadership and succession planning for the defence programme over the next 20 years. 2, developing the funding mechanism and ensure adequate resourcing of the defence function. 3, directing the renewal of defence personnel to ensure that the personnel profile is able to meet the future defence obligations. 4, directing the renewal of the defence organisation to achieve greater efficiencies and effectiveness. 5, reviewing the defence capability strategy and direct defence acquisition in line with the 4 milestones of the defence review. 6, directing the development of the defence industry strategy and the technology agenda and innovation plans in support of the defence development programme, as well as the integration of the defence industry into the mainstream industrial policy. Many aspects of the above can be pursued in the short term without additional funding, and which will have downstream benefit for the implementation of the defence review. It is important that the defence review should not be premised simply on the need for money, more money for the South African National Defence Force. Whilst this is important, the Department of Defence has a responsibility in preparing its ground for implementation to ensure that it improves its processes to work smarter, eliminate wastage, improve accountability, and redeploy current resources. Without preempting the outcome of the parliamentary process, the Ministry will ensure that during this financial year, both the Secretary of Defence and the Chief of the South African National Defence Force lay the necessary groundwork towards the attainment of immediate milestones in line with the performance agreement to be signed with the President. The development of these long-term plans does not mean that the department will no longer continue to function in terms of its current obligations and immediate plans. These will, however, need to be reprioritized and aligned to the long-term goals over the next 5 years. The Ministry is engaging the National Treasury about the implications of these planning imperatives for the normal cycle of budget allocations. In particular, the submissions for adjustment estimates that should be completed by the end of this month. It is important that the adjustment to the budget baseline of the department is not done outside of the consideration of those elements of the long-term plan that should be implemented during this financial year as dictated by outcome of the parliamentary processes. As Minister, I will provide a comprehensive directive that formally sets out the key performance areas of the ministry, the Defense Secretariat, and the Defense Force for the next 5 years and the forthcoming MTSF periods. In the immediate, the ministry will establish the mechanisms to provide strategic direction to the implementation of the Defense Review. This will include the establishment of the project governance structures and methodology. The implementation plan for the review plans will be presented to the JCPS DG Cluster and the JCPS Cabinet Committee and Cabinet when appropriate to do so. We'll be engaging with the National Treasury on a continuous basis on our business unusual planning trajectory. Furthermore, as our plans become clearer and more defined, we will engage with the Technical Evaluation Committee and the Ministerial Committee on Budget concerning the funding identified intervention within our business unusual planning. Chairperson and honorable members, even as we plan for the Defense Review implementation, the SANDF and the Department of Defense function is overextended by a host of events nationally, regionally, continentally, and internationally. Central to these complex activities is the management of intrastate conflicts on the African continent. The SANDF will still need to continue with its current operational plans in support of our international obligations and our foreign policy objectives. As stated by the President in his State of the Nation address, and I quote, South Africa will continue to support regional and continental processes to respond to and resolve crises, promote peace and security, strengthen regional integration, significantly increase intra-African trade, and champion development in Africa. This role will continue, and government is looking into the resourcing of the South African National Defence Force mandate in line with the recently concluded Defence Review, close quote. What then are our challenges? The Defence Review, honorable members, recognizes and states unambiguously that the South African National Defence Force is in a state of decline characterized by force imbalance between capabilities, aging technology, and unaffordability of many of its main operating systems. We do not have a choice but to respond with urgency to put plans to arrest the decline within the current 5 years, starting immediately during this financial year. 5 years is averagely the amount of time it will take us to develop a limited and sustainable defense capability. The longer the neglect is perpetuated, the greater the effort, time, cost it will take to arrest the decline. Although the South African National Defence Force is still able to maintain operational presence, if we do not start now, the decline will get worse. Our mandate in the next 5 years is to act fast to restore the minimum capabilities required to safeguard the Republic of South Africa, to protect its maritime resources and trade routes, to conduct peace missions and humanitarian interventions. Honorable members, as you know, the security situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo deteriorated to low levels because of the various negative forces, including M23, resulting in the deployment of the first ever Force Intervention Brigade. A force went in and made a difference when M23 was eliminated. And in this regard, South Africa should celebrate the role of its own home-developed Roy Falk helicopter that was overall instrumental in the overall success of the FIB. Since the success of the FIB, the Force Intervention Brigade, we've seen more negative forces coming forth to lay down their arms and showing commitment to participate in the reconstruction process. The FIB is extended for another year until June 2015 and will allow a SADC presence in the process of demobilization disarmament, and reintegration. And as South Africa, we have committed ourselves to the post-conflict reconstruction and development process in that country. South African soldiers, of course, are also deployed in Sudan as part of the UNAMID and are doing well despite the harsh conditions they find themselves in. The SANDF has been committed for another year from April the 1st, 2014 to the 31st of March, 2015. Honorable members, we are now, the continued instability in the continent as a result of the intrastate conflict has been a cause for concern. The absence of a fully established African standby force led to a decision by our African leaders to establish the African Capacity for Immediate Response to Crisis, ACIRC. This is an interim capability that allows the continent to take direct charge of dealing with its challenges. Preparations for combat readiness are going ahead. Of course, we are one of the 10 countries of the African Union which have volunteered to be part of this initiative. I have, however, indicated to the South African National Defence Force the necessity for proper preparation for any future deployments. Given some of the lessons of our previous deployments, I also think it is high time that indeed we put a lot of emphasis on counterinsurgency training in response to realities of the environments to which we are deploying in the continent. Training limited to conventional warfare is no longer sufficient as we increasingly have to deal with bandit activity in various parts of the continent. The capacity for the SANDF to continue to secure our borders will need to be enhanced during this current MTSF. The South African National Defence Force is doing all it can to address support and sustainment requirements for air and maritime components, as well as interdepartmental approach to fix the eroded infrastructure. Chairperson, after the adoption of the South African Maritime Security Strategy, South Africa has participated in securing of our waters, including the deployment along the Mozambican Channel. The operation has succeeded in deterring maritime crimes, protected our maritime resources and trade routes. A tripartite memorandum of understanding.
You have 2 minutes left.
I have two. How much time do I have?
2 minutes left from 20 minutes.
What is my total?
20.
Okay.
23, I'm sorry.
A tripartite has been signed by Mozambique, Tanzania, and South Africa. We have established an education trust in October of 2013 to assist dependents of members who died in combat with bursaries. I want to make a plea to all who are here, in particular business people, to contribute to this good initiative. I'm happy to announce, Chair, that the Defence Service Commission has been appointed and that the Commission is doing its best in the first instance to develop a policy that will see compensation to families of all those who die in combat. Chairperson, we've established a ministerial medical task team to conduct an investigation into some of the challenges which we have in our medical facilities after a resignation of about 36 doctors. That team was given 6 weeks, and the 6 weeks ended in March, end of March, and we've been given a report, and SAMS has been directed by the Chief of the South African National Defence Force to sort out the mess and begin to conduct an audit so that we can identify all of the doctors who are owed what is called commuted overtime, so that we can retain the doctors we have in our facilities. Chairperson, I wish to take from my 5 minutes at the end. Thank you very much. Is that agreed, honorable members? Thank you very much.
Please, don't disturb.
This
Continue.
medical task team was chaired by one of the best brains of this country, Professor Mukhuba. And I must say that I take my hat to the team for a sterling job well done. Chairperson, I'm sure you are aware we have what is called a Defence Works and Facility Improvement, Defence Works Formation, which has been established. This is as a result of the many challenges which have been identified by the committee itself. Our state of facilities is not good, and we have then taken a decision that we want to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we do renovations in our facilities without undermining the mandate of the Department of Public Works, but rather forge a partnership with them to do this work. We are currently, Chair, and a need has been identified for simultaneous recruitment of younger soldiers, career management, succession plan, and an exit management system. So there's a whole repositioning of the HR function of the Defence Force to respond to the Defence Review implementation imperatives. Without that, we will not be able to implement this piece of work which has been so well and efficiently done. Chair, honorable members, we also have a serious responsibility to address serious challenges of discipline within our ranks. While we do have many women and men who are part of a dedicated and disciplined force, making us proud every day, I've also noted growing trends of incidents of indiscipline creeping into our force. We've directed that service chiefs and commanders should take direct responsibility for enforcing discipline. The Chief of the South African National Defence Force should ensure that we have an effective military justice system and that it is strengthened to assist to deal with cases of discipline in a decisive manner, ensuring quick and decisive resolution of cases. Honourable members, the government has, as much as government has a responsibility to maintain a healthy force, individual defence members have a corresponding responsibility to meet the health and fitness requirements of the Defence Force. In addition to the above, the involvement of Defence Force members in sport and allied activities shall be encouraged as a further mechanism towards maintaining the health of the force. During 2013-14, the Office of the Military Ombuds received 290 new cases which were assessed and corresponded to. A total of 240 cases have been finalized during this financial year. The majority of cases received related to service termination, service benefits, promotion, demotion, and rank review. The Military Ombuds has also submitted a report in 2 parts on the allegations of abuse at the infantry school in Oudtshoorn, and the Minister has since directed the Chief of the South African National Defence Force to implement the recommendations as outlined in the report of the Ombuds. The Ombuds intends to secure the appointment of the Deputy Military Ombuds during this financial year. Chairperson, as I said, we've completed and gazetted our regulations for the military veterans, which paves the way for the rollout of the benefits to military veterans, and the Deputy Minister will dwell on this matter. I've since received, Chair, in April 2014, an internal audit report on the supply chain management and procurement process followed in the Department of Military Veterans. And I instructed the SecDef to assist to get a forensic investigation conducted, which has since been done. And we have now received a report on the 18th of July last week, and will take appropriate action once we have finished studying the findings and recommendations of PwC. These challenges of capacity
Thank you, Honorable
Thank you very
Minister.
much.
Your time has expired.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We now call on the Chairperson of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Mtimele.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Comrade Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, Honorable Deputy Minister, Comrade Kebi Mapatswe, Honorable Members of Parliament. I must also salute representatives of the military veterans in green up there. You are saluted. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Chairperson, the ANC supports and embraces this budget vote. And I must go on to say, it is not by accident that the ANC, after the transition from apartheid to a democratic society, and in its election manifesto, identified rampant youth unemployment, poverty, and inequality as the arch enemies of our people. Thus, the National Development Plan. And it goes without saying that the successful implementation of this grand plan, the NDP, will depend on a strong and well-resourced defense force. We must tap on the past successes of the SANDF and the future success plans to create an environment of peace and stability at home in the whole region and the continent in order to economically grow South Africa and its people. Honorable Chairperson, in the past 20 years, since its inception, the Defense Force has scored many successes, and the next 20 years ahead are being planned meticulously to ensure that this successful trajectory is continued. Often hailed as a crown jewel and a national asset in service of the country, the SANDF is enjoying enormous credibility, not just in South Africa, but also abroad. Our military successfully transformed into a modern, representative, and a remarkably capable force that is playing an active role in regional affairs. South Africa must continue to honor its international obligation to provide troops for AU and UN peacekeeping operations, since we have reclaimed our space as part of the broader international community. The reintroduction of the SANDF to our landline borders under Operation Corona shows that despite several challenges, it was able to score many successes in preventing cross-border crime and illegal activities by confiscating contraband goods worth millions, including alcohol, cigarettes, medicine, beauty products, and counterfeit goods. It was also responsible for confiscating weapons, data, livestock, and recovering 105 stolen vehicles, apprehending 21,244 illegal immigrants, as well as arresting 781 criminals. Similarly, the Defense Force's role in fighting piracy has been hailed as a success story as it conducted Operation Copper in the Mozambique Channel. It is especially the role of our frigates, SAS Spionkop, SAS Amatola, SAS Isandwana, SAS Emendi, that has drawn attention for the sterling work in the anti-piracy tasks. South Africa's role in peacekeeping should be understood against the background that its own development and prosperity hinges on the development and prosperity of the entire continent. South Africa has successfully deployed peacekeepers to several countries under both AU and UN mandates And these include, as mentioned by the Minister, Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, and Sudan. The deployment of our soldiers as part of the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission with the Intervention Brigade in the Eastern DRC, which fought off the M23 rebels, was widely praised, especially the technical prowess that our locally developed Rooivalk attack helicopter displayed. Equally, the success of the peace process, power sharing, and democratic governance in Burundi has been credited in no small way to the SNDF's sterling role, where it was involved from the inception of the conclusion to the conclusion of the Burundi peace process. We also need to unreservedly compliment the contribution of the Interim and Permanent Defense Force Service Commission and the military ombud in pushing our defense force forward in improving conditions of service and ensuring that complaints of members can be dealt with speedily. The media made us all of us aware of the noble role played by the SANDF in the funeral proceeding of our former President Nelson Mandela. And the SANDF has been cheerfully commended for a job well done. Here, 11,000 soldiers were deployed to assist with logistical and security arrangements. Our soldiers have also been able to attend international defense courses all over the world, and we are hosting numerous international students on our military courses. This does not only augur well to improve our standards and levels of training, but also provides the opportunities for others to learn from our experiences. Honorable Chairperson, Section 200, subsection 2 of the Constitution emphasizes that the primary object of the Defense Force is to defend and protect the Republic, its territorial integrity, and its people. Given this broad mandate, it stands that for the department to execute its primary object, it needs to be at the very minimum sufficiently resourced. The reality is, however, that there is a persistent disconnect between the defense mandate, growing defense commitments, and resource allocation to the point where the Defense Force is unable to fully fulfill its constitutional responsibility and is hard-pressed to even maintain its current modest level of commitments. A solution is proposed to address these challenges, namely that there must be either a greater budget allocation or a significant scaled-down level of ambition and commitment which is aligned to the current budget allocation. Given the President's statement in the State of the Nation address, the above options are neither here nor there, leaving us with only one option to follow, the mandate-driven option. Our first priority should therefore be to arrest the decline in the Defense Force. Secondly, to rebalance it. And thirdly, to capacitate it adequately. Honorable Chairperson, I believe that most of us are in agreement that our personnel are the most valuable asset, especially in such a vital organization as the Defense Force. Given that soldiers are trained to operate very sophisticated weapon systems and that discipline is instilled in them to operate under harsh conditions, it is only right that we reciprocate by resourcing these patriotic citizens in uniform adequately. The culture of soldiering, courage, and pride displayed by our soldiers in recent battles, the Battle of Bangui and the fight against the M23 rebels, come to mind. And this underlines the fact that they can be dependent on. Indeed, they should be treasured and be allowed to play their optimal role in executing their constitutional mandate. In fact, contrary to cries to downsize, we should consider that the Defense Force is in fact in need of more soldiers to man our borders properly and to supply sufficient numbers for peacekeeping operations. The Defense Review has been submitted to Parliament, and the Portfolio Committee will now engage with it and present its findings and recommendations to this House, Chairperson. Any premature conclusions and deliberate misunderstanding in this regard should should thus be treated with skepticism. We are aware that we are faced with major challenges in the Defence Force, but given that we have an experienced and competent military leadership, we have the necessary defence knowledge, competencies and skills available, and a solid defence foundation that has been built over the last 20 years from which to move from. We are comfortably confident that with the political will which has been expressed, we will be able to take this defence force to greater heights over the next 20 years. Honourable Chairperson, as indicated earlier, a stable and secure environment is the necessary foundation for sustainable and successful development. We are noting with sadness the past reluctance of the Department of Defence Force to get directly involved in socio-economic development because of a history which saw the militarization of civil society and the deployment of the military in especially black areas. This has fortunately changed, and we have witnessed the Defence Force being involved in many facets of our daily lives, such as rescue missions, staffing hospitals during strikes, providing security during major events, and fighting the barbaric acts of rhino poaching. On that score, Chairperson, the most relevant chapter of the National Development Plan to the military is Chapter 12, entitled Building Safer Communities. Although the chapter mainly emphasizes the role of the police in securing a safe environment, the overall role of the military is much broader, as indicated by the following examples. The Defence Force, through the Military Skills Development System and National Youth Service, as well as the defence industry, has a huge role in creating jobs for especially the youth, to address youth unemployment in particular, to contribute to our goal of advancing and promoting the economy and employment. In addition, the Department of Military Veterans, through its empowerment program, will facilitate employment placement for military veterans. The SNDF's peacekeeping operation is assisting to create a conducive environment in attracting more investment and business opportunities for our country and the whole continent, in line with the priorities of the NDP. Similarly, AMSCO is also developing a regional strategy to exploit its geopolitical advantage in the SADC region. In looking at the objective of transforming human settlement, we observe, amongst others, that military veterans are being assisted to access decent housing. With regards to improving education, training, and innovation, both the Department of Defense and military veterans play a significant role in improving the skills level of serving members and veterans. We are aware that the department, through its military health service, provides comprehensive medical care for its personnel at the various military hospitals and sick bases around the country. Similarly, the Department of Military Veterans has been issuing health cards to those who qualify through their respective ministers for support in this regard. We are also proud that there were more than 7,000 military veterans on the healthcare database as at 31st December 2013, with 2,336 having had access to healthcare services.
2 minutes.
Honorable Chairperson, the seriousness of government to promote accountability and fight corruption manifests on many levels in the department. Its anti-corruption policies, as well as measures to prevent fraud and other illegal activities, have been bearing fruit, and we encourage the department to strengthen these efforts and other efforts to fight corruption and fraud. Chairperson, in conclusion, Chairperson, the Department of Defense has scored many successes over the past 20 years of democracy and is applauded for the sterling role it keeps on playing despite severe challenges and prophets of doom criticizing them on spurious grounds. We look forward to their continued contribution not only to safeguard our people and the country, but also to assist our brothers and sisters on the continent in achieving peace and security. The Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans will now engage with the 2014 Defense Review and hope to be in position to soon further lend support to bring about a properly resourced defense force. Our soldiers deserve nothing else, as they have been, amongst others, a source of national pride and an asset worth investing in. Once more, Honorable Chairperson, the ANC support this budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mutimela. We now call on Honorable Maynor.
Chairperson, our soldiers are now deployed in some of the most volatile conflict zones in the world. And I would therefore like to associate myself with the Minister's comments and begin by saluting our men and women in uniform serving on the front line. Whether you are in the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force, or the Health Service, we say thank you for your service to our country. I would also like to congratulate the Minister on her reappointment to the Cabinet. Now, since being appointed, the Minister has experienced more snakes down than ladders up. But the Minister does deserve political credit for two significant achievements. First, firing that human wrecking ball, General Mojo Matau, as the chairperson of Arms Corps. And finally, after 3 long years, tabling the South African Defence Review 2014 in Parliament. The Minister, I'm sure we all agree, is a vast improvement on her ghastly predecessor, who, like Voldemort, I like to refer to as she who must not be named. Now, there's only one person her predecessor appears to dislike more than me, and that is the Minister, evidenced by their hostile correspondence about what has now become known as Gulfstream Gate. This, as you all can imagine, in my view, is a huge badge of honor for the Minister. In the end, however, we all hope that the Minister will enjoy more ladders up than snakes down over the next 5 years. Now, Chairperson, we are supposed to be here debating the appropriation of 42.8 billion rand for the Defence Force in 2014-2015. But let's be honest, this is not a debate. This is a political farce dressed up as a debate. Because the truth is, we know very little about what is really going on inside the Defence Force. Now, on the 13th of June 2013, 1,345 soldiers, as the Minister has mentioned, were deployed as part of the United Nations Force Intervention Brigade in the DRC. They were not deployed on a peacekeeping mission. They were deployed on a peace enforcement mission to hunt and kill rebel forces in the eastern DRC. We had a duty, therefore, to ensure that our soldiers were properly supported to execute the mission, because we have a special duty to ensure that the tragic events in the CAR, which resulted in the loss of 15 of our soldiers, never happens again. But despite numerous requests from myself over a period of several months, we never received a briefing on the mission in the DRC. We learned much later, almost accidentally, that our soldiers did not, in fact, have the necessary logistical support to execute the mission. Shortly after the deployment, the Minister, we learned from court papers, said the biggest challenge that we have right now is that as we deploy to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our soldiers do not have tents and our soldiers do not have parachute equipment. So if we join the dots, as we are forced to do, it is clear that the Defence Force is in deep trouble. Now, the Defence Force likes to displace blame for its troubles to the National Treasury. But the truth is, we have the Defence Force we deserve because we have the Defence Force we choose. We have soldiers in barracks not safeguarding our landward borders because we choose not to prioritize border safeguarding. We have aircraft in hangars not protecting our maritime borders because we choose not to prioritize spending on maritime border protection. And we have ships alongside not protecting our maritime borders because we choose not to prioritize maritime border protection. Because in the end, we choose to prioritize spending on armed welfare, not prioritize spending on military capability. We have budgeted to spend 54.5% or 20.4 billion on personnel in 2014-15. And now we hear that there's a 1.23 billion rand shortfall for personnel in the Defence Force. And this comes on the back of spending or planning to spend an additional, get this, 4.5 billion more on personnel between 2009-10 and 2014-15. Put simply, we are spending too much on personnel, we are spending too little on operations, and we are spending much too little on capital acquisition. And we are wasting too much money in the Defence Force. And nothing symbolizes this more than the 6 million rand spent on the development of a so-called women's court shoe, which looks something like this. For every military veteran present here today, you must know that the Defence Force have spent more than 6 million rand. That is the equivalent of 50 houses for military veterans developing a women's court shoe. Now the Defence Force likes to blame.
Order. Order, honorable members, continue.
We are, in other words, turning our Defence Force, which should be saving lives, into an armed welfare service which is saving jobs. We're heading down the same road as Nigeria, where when they were finally faced with a nail in the form of Boko Haram, they found that they had no hammer. Because the Nigerian armed forces, which are awash, I beg your pardon, with big generals, with even bigger epaulets, but no military expertise. So our last hope is the South African Defence Review 2014, which, as the Minister has said, and to her credit, has now been tabled in Parliament. There is much to recommend in the Defence Review, not least its brutally frank assessment that the Defence Force is in a critical state of decline. However, the Defence Review process was deeply flawed and is unlikely to reverse the critical state of decline in the Defence Force. First, the Defence Review was not a Defence Review. The Defence Review was a review of defence policy. Second, the Defence Review was carried out in a national security and foreign policy vacuum. Third, the Defence Force does not contain a final force design, which must still be completed by the Chief of the Defence Force. And finally, the budget for the Defence Review's proposed desired end state, and this is critical, has not been approved by the National Treasury. It's staggering that of the 436 meetings conducted by the Defence Review Committee, not one appears to have been with the National Treasury. In the end, the Defence Review was a political strategy to outflank the National Treasury. But the Defence Review Committee does not seem to understand the iron law of public policy making, which is this: you cannot do what you cannot fund. That's why the Defence Review's proposal to reshape the Defence Force to include 189,000 personnel, 158 combat units, consuming 88 billion rand or 2.4% of the GDP is doomed to fail. So now we have the Minister scrambling, as she told us, to identify quick wins which can be implemented at little or no cost to the Defence Force. A defense review is about making hard choices, about what stays, what goes, and what must be added, critically within the budget constraint. But that is not what we got. This is a classic case of a flawed process that is likely to lead to a flawed outcome. The defense review has now landed, as the minister says, or more accurately, crash-landed in Parliament. And now it seems it's going to be left to Parliament to rescue the defense review. But that is going to be very difficult because there has been, and we must face this fact, a complete breakdown in the relationship between the Department of Defense and Parliament. The minister in the past 2 years has never appeared before the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans and has appeared only once before the Joint Standing Committee of Defense. And the Chief of Defense Force over the past 5 years has never, ever, not once appeared before the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, and has never, ever, not once appeared before the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. And for the past 5 years, we have never received a detailed briefing on military preparedness, despite spending 10.3 billion rand on force employment. And we have never received a detailed briefing on defense acquisition, despite spending 3.6 billion rand on capital acquisition. And we have never received a detailed briefing on the supposedly secret funds channeled through the secret defense account, despite spending 25.7 billion rand over the last 5 years. It's only through leaked documents that we discovered the Defense Department was secretly trying to purchase a brand new Boeing 777 worth 2 billion rand. And it's only through leaked documents that we discovered the Defense Department secretly signed a deal to purchase armored infantry vehicles worth 15 billion rand. In the end, the Defense Force has become a state within a state beyond oversight and scrutiny by Parliament. So I hope the Chief of the Defense Force will listen carefully when I say, I know you are aware that because of our history, you have a duty to ensure the Defense Force recognizes the supremacy of the Constitution, is under civilian control, and is accountable to Parliament. However, with respect, sir, you are failing in your duty. By resisting the authority of Parliament, you create the impression that the Defense Force is not accountable to Parliament. And worse, by resisting the authority of Parliament, you create the impression that the Defense Force does not respect Parliament. You are taking the Defense Force down a very dangerous road, away from the future and back to the past. I am therefore appealing to you directly. Stop this dangerous, creeping authoritarianism in the Defense Force before it is too late. Because in the end, we all have to work together to achieve our common aim, which is to reverse the critical state of decline in the Defense Force. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Menya. Siyobiza manje ilunga elihloniphekile lalendlu umhlonishwa Litchfield Shabalala.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister, a nation that continues to spend year after year more on its budget, on its military budget, than on social upliftment programs is on its way to a spiritual decay. The words of Martin Luther King Jr. The pertinent question is, are we there? The 21st century is described as an age of asymmetrical warfare, defined as warfare in which a group engages in when they deem themselves weaker than their enemy. There is also a tacit agreement amongst war and defense experts that this is indeed the threat nationally and internationally of the 21st century. Our defense review agrees with this in its analysis of the strategic environment, where it says that wars have since happened more within than between countries. It also says such a type of warfare is more prevalent in developing and underdeveloped countries, of which South Africa is one. Back to the words of Martin Luther. If this is indeed the threat of the 21st century, why expand billions of money preparing for an interstate warfare when the enemy is within? Martin Luther asks and says, a nation that does that is on its way to social decay. It is the truth in South Africa that the defense budget is 12 billion more than that of human settlements. Yep. It is 8.8 billion more than that of health. It is 23 billion more than that of basic education. Should I go on? Suffice it to say that it is even more than that of higher education. Perhaps that's why African campuses are rat and cockroaches infested. Ihlazo, a shame. Izinto enzenzayo zenza amasikizi. The truth of the matter is there is nothing normal about the defense budget. However, we are informed it is normal because it is within 2% of the GDP, and that's normal for developing countries. Perhaps the question to ask is, who established that standard of normalcy? Was it a world which is war-crazed, which in 2009 spent 1.5 trillion US dollars on defense? Is this normalcy established by a world that is suffocating under the weight of the military-industrial complex, which it seeks year in and year out to appease? The fact of the matter is there is nothing about the defense of the budget of the ruling party in general, because it is based on money that is borrowed from the IMF and the World Bank and paid back in exorbitant interest, let alone the confining conditions on how to use it. Perhaps that's why they allow us to use this money in picking up their mess throughout the continent, which they have purposely created and, by the way, systematically uphold. I'm talking about countries like the DRC, Central African Republic. It is a lecture for another day how those laws are systematically upheld by imperialism that we have to pick up with our tax-based money. However, should we wish to be involved in Africa, perhaps it is high time we redefine our role and use our defense force in Africa in defense of the African revolution and not in picking up imperialist mess. However, we cannot do that because since 1955, we walk on our money. We talk about it, but we don't get to do it. Ruling party, you know exactly where the money lies. You know exactly where our money lies. Order. Because wanting to be an actor in the African arena of war is costly. Defense is a very costly outfit. That is why at the moment we are sacrificing social upliftment in favor of defense. It doesn't have to be. We work on our money, do what is right, so that we can invest adequately in our defense force, so that we can pay our men and women in uniform a decent wage, so that we can invest in our military health institutions. National party. We can do better than that. If we do that, we can also invest in those men and women wearing green over there. We can restore their dignity. We can also reintegrate them back into society and give them a living wage.
Honorable member, your time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Litchfield Shabalala. Thank you. Sibiza manje ilunga elihloniphekile Mhlonishwa Mnqango.
Well, Honorable Chairperson, as the IFP, we would like to say that we support the budget.
Honorable members, hold on. Honorable members exiting the house. Honorable members exiting the house. That is not allowed. You cannot pass between me and the speaker. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Ngango.
As the IFP, we welcome the fact that the Defense Review report has finally been made available and that it sets out a comprehensive program to modernize the Defense Force. The report is a roadmap on how we can keep up with the times and the nature of the threats that are being experienced around the world, which may end up affecting us in the future. The military skills development system is in need of constant attention, Madam Chairperson, to ensure that the South African Army consists of men and women ready to discharge their constitutional duty and mandate against any external forces threatening the country. The IFP is also very concerned about the current state of our Defense Force leadership. Ask me why. The top leadership of the Defense Force, they look actually completely unfit and they are aging. How can we expect them to lead when they cannot do so by example?
Chairperson.
It is imperative that there must be a clear and transparent policy of upward mobility within the military, which will facilitate a crop of young...
Honorable Mngango, order. There's an order. Is that an order?
Yes, Chairperson. Can the member please refrain from reflecting on the character of the people who cannot defend themselves, who are actually appointed by us? Thank you.
Honorable member, continue.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I was actually saying that it is imperative that there must be a clear and transparent policy of upward mobility within the military, which will facilitate a crop of young and fit generals rising from within the ranks. In the United States, for instance, Madam Chairperson, the average age of a general is 45 years, while the average weight is about 90 kilograms. I'm saying that notwithstanding the fact that I weigh more than 90 myself. Anything beyond that is actually completely unacceptable and may even bring about one's early retirement from the post. Why should it be any different from our officials? With regards to our external operations, we admire the role and the men and women in the army are playing in peacekeeping missions around the continent. However, we would like to point out that any peacekeeping mission cannot be viewed as a permanent phenomenon. Political and diplomatic solutions must be actively promoted so that conflicts that caused the instability in the first place are resolved and our men and women can return home. The DRC, Somalia, or Darfur cannot be permanent homes to our soldiers. The involvement of our armed forces in disaster relief operations is to be welcomed, whether it happens inside or outside the country. We note with great concern, though, that this is actually an unfunded mandate, even though these operations are critically important. In order to promote long-term solutions, we will need to consider setting up a program under SADC or any other multilateral organization to help in capacitating those states that we assist during disasters to deal with their own issues themselves. Otherwise, we may need to look at a system of reimbursement to cover the cost incurred during the relief effort. One of our most strategically
Honorable member, please come back. Use this door. Continue.
One of our most strategically important national assets is
Time has expired. Thank you.
But my time is, Madam Chairperson, is taken by these people.
We have been monitoring that. We are very good at monitoring your time. Don't worry. Siyobiza manje Honorable Ngwabe.
Ngwabe, Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you. for that.
Honorable Minister of Defense, the Deputy Minister, Ministers present, Deputy Minister of Agriculture, honorable members of this committee, distinguished guests, officials from the department. Honorable members, the National Freedom Party regards the National Defense Force as the most crucial entity in ensuring peace and stability in our country, as well as the security of our citizens from any form of external threats. We are also aware of the crucial role played by the Defense Force in the Southern African region and in the continent at large, in peacekeeping missions in countries like DRC, Mozambique, Sudan, and Central African Republic. The NFP supports these important initiatives of our Defense Force because we all need a peaceful region and a peaceful continent to guarantee the bright future of the African child. The National Freedom Party also supports the department's initiative of the National Youth Service, which seeks to provide the initial training to selected youth for the purposes of creating a pool of young and ready citizens from which this department will be able to recruit the personnel. We believe, Chairperson, that more funding should be allocated for this program, as well as other programs like voluntary youth service within the department. This will not only instill the spirit of patriotism among our youth, but will make them ready for whatever kind of employment within the department, thereby contributing positively in the fight against youth unemployment. The department also indicated to the Portfolio Committee that it has been underfunded, which has made it uneasy for them to fully execute the mandate and the programs given to them. It is our submission, Chair, that underfunding this department will make it impossible for the Portfolio Committee to fully assess its performance as well as the capability of its leadership. It will be unfair, Chair, to expect the underfunded department to fully execute its mandate and achieve its target. It is for this reason, Chairperson, that the National Freedom Party supports the proposed budget of the department as tabled before us. Thank you.
Sithokoze Baba Mncwabe. Nakong ena re tlo bitsa the Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans.
Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Chairperson of the committee and members of the Portfolio Committee, the Secretary for Defense and senior managers of the Department of Defense, the Chief of the SANDF, General Shoke, and members of the Military Command, senior managers of the Department of Military Veterans, our distinguished fellow military veterans present here today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Chairperson, often we undertake journeys in our lives inspired by a need greater than our personal desires. Such journeys are motivated by a greater need to do good for our fellow human beings at the expense of our own personal well-being. Today, I stand before this august house to dedicate this maiden speech to part of a community which sacrificed everything for the well-being of our greater society. I speak here of a special kind of people whom our departed leader Oliver Tambo named the Young Lions Detachment. This is the detachment of this disbanded People's Army Umkhonto weSizwe. It is the detachment that undertook a journey to fiercely burn the flame of freedom in our country and confronted the destabilizing forces sponsored by the apartheid regime in Angola. During those battles, many perished in that country, which we proudly called the firm trench of the revolution in Africa. These were young men and women who left our country to take up arms against apartheid during the fierce battles which preceded the negotiations that ushered in our hard-won democracy. We deem it fit to revisit this past today to compel ourselves to remember that the bones of South Africans are scattered all over the world as they perished in pursuit of human dignity. In pursuit of our struggle for freedom and human dignity, We also would like to remember, while we celebrate World War I centenary, the painful story of the SS Mendi, which went down with about 607 Africans. It would be befitting that when we honor our military veterans with today's budget vote, we remember that our bones are not only scattered in foreign lands, but they also lay resting deep in the ocean sea bed of our world. Honorable Chairperson, the government of the ANC has to be lauded and applauded for having taken a bold step to address the plight of the military veterans. These are men and women who sacrifice their youth for the youth of today, black and white, to stand proud and tall as compatriots and fellow South Africans. It is these men and women who deserve the honor, dignity, and our commitment to address the injustices of the past. We must be true to the injunctions of the Constitution of the Republic, regardless of the many challenges, and never tire to declare that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. It is in that spirit that we shall recognize and acknowledge the need to ensure that our military veterans, those who suffered for our democracy, enjoy the result of their sacrifice in their lifetime. Today, we'd like to announce that in pursuit of giving honor to our military veterans, we intend to establish, register, resource, and capacitate to ensure that the operation of 200 military veterans cooperatives in all the 9 provinces of our republic are established. These cooperatives are meant to involve at least 1,500 military veterans in gainful economic empowerment activity. Honorable Chairperson, job creation will now become a reality for military veterans and not just a dream. This process will be undertaken in partnership with relevant government departments and the private sector through the Memorandum of Understandings. It is an initiative that must radically turn around the economic empowerment of military veterans and give them a new meaning in life as full participants in our effort to contribute towards economic growth and employment creation. We cannot fail in this initiative. It is our expression of the radical transformation which our country needs. Ziyalunga izinto zama military veterans, ziyalunga. We take cognizance of the fact that the success of the business ventures of military veterans demands the great needs for skills development and academic advancement and excellence. Subsequently, we would like to commit to undertake a process to build partnerships with further education and training institutions. We aim to reach agreements with them to give concessions to members of the military veterans community to acquire the relevant skills and, in some cases, study to complete their dream of education, which they sacrificed in their youth when they answered the call to fight to bring about democracy in our country. We believe this initiative will not just redeem the self-esteem of military veterans, but will inspire our country to study. To this end, we'd like to commit to provide bursaries through our budget and in partnership with other relevant departments and the private sector to the military veterans and their dependents. We all know that the scars of war are not easily healed. In fact, many military veterans go to the grave with unimaginable pain that they carried throughout the course of their lives. We commit to ensure that we ease that pain through a well-focused health and wellness programs with the emphasis on counseling. This initiative will help to stabilize military veterans' lives and strengthen the process of reintegrating them in their communities. The physical health of military veterans will also be greatly strengthened by affording them access to military health institutions. To that extent, we have given military veterans 7,000 health cards. The holistic health of military veterans is of critical importance to enhance their profile as community builders. The Department of Military Veterans will also look at means to amend the Military Veterans Act and do research on the feasibility of a possible all-inclusive comprehensive health service for the dependents of military veterans to have access to our health facilities and medical support. We have in the past experienced pain and discomfort at how those who put their lives in the line for our freedom receive burials that fail to reflect the sacrifice they made during their lifetime. We are engaging with the industry and military veterans to explore the establishment of a burial scheme to guarantee that no military veteran shall be bid farewell that does not befit the sacrifice they undertook in their lifetime. The burials of our military veterans must cease being platforms of lament, and they must become occasions to inspire the living to greater heights of patriotism and civil duty. One of the key weaknesses facing the Department of Military Veterans is our ICT capacity and capabilities. We'll work in partnership with SETA to establish a firm ICT base for the department. During the 2014-15 financial year, the department will also establish the South African National Military Veterans Association Secretariat to provide a comprehensive administrative support to strengthen governance and oversight protocols to give effect to the provisions of the Military Veterans Act. I would like to announce that a special SANVA National General Council will be called within the next month, where I will officially step down as SANVA President. The Department of Military Veterans executive priorities have not changed and will put extra emphasis on finalizing the provision of public transport for military veterans. Honorable Chairperson, we gave the department clear instructions to finalize the National Military Veterans Database by the end of December 2014. This is to ensure a credible and secure database to promote accountability as espoused in Section 9 of the Military Veterans Act. The department will put emphasis on the finalization and promotion of the military veterans' heritage, memorialization, honoring programs, and policies. This includes the establishment of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the restoration and repatriation of graves of the liberation of war military veterans and the establishment of the Military Veterans Heroes Acre. The provision of decent housing to deserving military veterans will remain priority for the department. Honorable Chairperson, the department has embarked on a process to fast-track the establishment of the board of the Military Veterans Advisory Council, the Appeals Board, and the Audit Committee to strengthen governance and oversight protocols within the department. Honorable Chair, finally, our focus to alleviate the plight of military veterans is based on the manifesto of the ruling party. It is informed by the National Development Plan. Our program of radically transforming the lives of military veterans is born in our vision of accelerated socio-economic benefits for military veterans through their self-empowerment in partnership with government departments, private sector, and the society in general. I would like also to salute the Honorable Minister of Defense and Military Veterans for her unselfish effort to see the defense review through up to the level of cabinet and for further tabling it in Parliament. The defense review will revitalize the South African National Defense Force and address the key challenges of the department as it prepares those who will be joining the ranks of the military veterans. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. I'll now call Lilungelo Hloniphekile Umnisi.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members of Parliament, our distinguished veterans and guests in the gallery. The National Development Plan urges us to build a capable developmental state, and the ANC has always espoused a caring government. A developmental state should not only possess the capacity to care, but should demonstrate such care in action. Our government is a caring government that seeks to build a better life for all our people. Better life has to do with high life expectancy, a broad and deeper skill base, and equitable distribution of wealth. The Constitution compels South Africans not only to recognize the injustices of the past, also to honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land. When the ANC resolved in its 52nd National Conference in Polokwane
to establish a ministry for military veterans, it was not simply complying with the Constitution, but was demonstrating its character as a caring organization. In line with improving the quality of lives of military veterans, the department undertakes to ensure that military veterans and their dependents have access to education and are provided with health and wellness support. The department also undertakes to ensure the participation of military veterans in the mainstream economy through BBBEE and participation in rural development and land reform. The department's verification of military veterans, which is currently underway, should be understood as a means of ensuring data integrity. Concurrent with the verification, the department will facilitate the delivery of basic services, housing, healthcare, etc., to military veterans across the length and breadth of our country. The department will ensure order, that it responds accordingly and appropriately to the needs of military veterans, undertaken research on pertinent issues affecting military veterans. Honorable Chairperson, as the ANC indicated in its 52nd National Conference, the skills of military veterans should be optimally utilized by government for the benefit of the nation. The department in its annual performance plan acknowledges the skills of military veterans have not yet been explored and exploited to the full benefit of society. The APP outlines these skills as including strong leadership, technical skills, patriotism, loyalty, commitment and dedication to the nation. And the APP makes a keen observation that such skills are indeed critical elements for nation building that need to be harnessed and utilized productively. The National Development Plan provides that a more prosperous country that is progressively eradicating poverty and inequality will also over time eliminate the effects of apartheid and colonial discrimination that have so scared our society. In line with the NDP, the department has committed to, amongst others, facilitate employment opportunities for military veterans with the support of government, private companies, and state agencies. The department will further establish health and wellness centers to provide for military veterans who need full-time care and are without such personal support system. The department has entered into a cooperation agreement with the Department of Human Settlements. There is an agreement on the design, cost, and funding of military veterans' houses. It should be mentioned that it is envisaged that 1,000 military veterans will be provided with houses in 2014-15. Honorable Chairperson, the Defense Review provides that the future military strategy will broadly comprise 3 layers as follows. Layer 1, to influence the international security agenda through integrated diplomacy efforts and the pursuit of national objectives. Through strategic engagement of the United Nations and the African Peace and Security Architecture to pursue defined multilateral security objectives, promote the deepening of democracy in the African continent, and promote peace, security, and development on the continent. The pursuit of strategic bilateral objectives. The layer 2, to safeguard the South African state, its people, and its territory. To collaborately and deliberately protect national interests, to contribute to South Africa's developmental agenda. It can thus be extrapolated that a military strategy is not yet in place, but its framework is pursued to this. The Defense Review further provides that, guided by the Defense Review and the approved defense strategy, the following will be developed under the authority of Chief of Defense Force. A military strategy inclusive of the force design, force structure, establishment table, and key resources imperatives. This force design should be reviewed at least every 5 years or as required in response to changes in the strategic environment. The Defense Force long-term capability strategy indicating the level of operational capability required to meet the defense policy and the military strategy, the Defense Force capital and technology plans, the necessary operational level military doctrine to support the military strategy, the renewed military doctrine to support the military strategy. The renewed military doctrine will in turn lead to renewed military tactics, technique, and procedures. Defense expenditure as per percentage GDP is, according to the Defense Review, an indicator of national will. It indicates how seriously a country takes its security. It indicates how seriously a country takes commitments it has undertaken in respect of regional defense of security arrangement and how willing it is to face up to unexpected threats to itself or its region. In conclusion, Chairperson, the Defense Renew further makes bold to assert that if it is to be effective, the Defense Force must be funded adequately and appropriately. The defense budget must meet the financial requirements that arise from the roles and mission sets assigned by government to the Defense Force. The defense budget must provide steadily funding over time, not on boom or bust cycle, to allow the Defense Force to equip and train effectively. The ANC pledges its support to the department and support the budget vote 22. We are proud of our past and confident of our future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mnisi. Tlabitsa Lulukule Khabane Holomisa.
Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable members of this House, the UDM supports budget vote 22. The department is one of the fortunate to have retained its minister after 2014 elections, therefore promising continuity of strategy and direction in this department. As a member of the Defense Force Service Commission, I concur with some of the Defense Force program and plans as announced by the minister today. Whilst appreciating minister's input, however, as a country, we need to look at some of the mandates given to us, especially peacekeeping-related tasks. South Africa must always consider these tasks against its own safety, the safety of our troops deployed, and its people. Conditions of service and equipment of the South African National Defense Force has not yet reached the expected standards and levels. Much still needs to be done. The situation is further exacerbated by a bloated bureaucracy and lack of professionalism within the Defense Force. Whilst the concept of civilian oversight we all endorse, this House needs to evaluate as to what extent is the approach affecting the capacity of the Defense Force in discharging its constitutional mandate. The defense is an instruction-based institution underpinned by key fundamental principles of high-level discipline, speed, and control. President Zuma in 2010 appointed an interim Defense Force Service Commission to look at the challenges confronting the Defense Force at the time. As we all know, the findings of the commission are well documented. The frustrating part is the slow pace in implementing the recommendations of the commission. It becomes more frustrating learning that some allocated budgets are underutilized and returned to the fiscus. The UDM recommends that this House reconsider returning the accounting officer's powers back to the commander of the Defense Force and retain the civilian oversight in the minister's office. Such a bold step shall drastically increase the speed at which the conditions of service of our Defense Force are improved. It will further reduce the amount of bureaucratic red tapes. The defense review is, if it is not approved by the Parliament this year, Honorable Minister, it may affect the Defense 5-year strategic plan you tabled today. Honorable Minister, I will not be here when you reply, as I'm rushing to participate in the state security budget. So please pardon me. Otherwise, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Holomisa. Order. I do not see Honorable Groenewald, so I'll go to Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, may we also from the ACDP side congratulate you and Deputy Minister on your appointment, and we wish you well in this term, and our greetings to all the members of staff, the management of the Defence Force, and all the troops and guests that are here. Now, most of the speakers here have indicated that the budget allocation is in fact going down, and we are aware that the Defence Force has a 1.2 billion rand shortfall. We as the ACDP are on record as continually calling for an increased budget for the Defence Force. Yes, we also believe the Defence Force must manage its budget correctly, and it must spend more, we believe, on operations and capital equipment and less on personnel, as pointed out by other speakers. But it is undeniable that successive budget cuts have undermined the Defence Force's capacity and capability in various areas, including the ability to carry out its peacekeeping mandate. And we all are aware that blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. So let us be grateful for the work that the Defence Force is doing under very difficult and financial constraints. If the budget is not realistic, can the Defence Force be expected to carry out these operations in the rest of Africa, given that it is hard-pressed to even meet its current commitments? We need to ensure our troops are properly trained, transported, protected, and supplied. And if it is true, as Honourable Member Main has said, that there were not sufficient tents, parachute equipment in the DRC, then this is scandalous. And we need, as Parliament, to assist, because remember, the power lies with us. As we have said continuously, we passed legislation that gives us the power to amend the budget. Now, why do we not meet with the Appropriations Committee as the Defence Force Committee and say, this is the budget constraints, let us then meet. It's not the Defence Force and National Treasury. We as Parliament passed the legislation to enable us to amend that budget. So let us engage. Yes, there's many pressures on the fiscus, and every department is asking for more money. But it is imperative that we need to look at this and meet and find ways that we can reprioritize funds or see how one can assist the Defence Force. But clearly from their side, there must be greater accountability to Parliament and greater oversight. And therefore it is very important, what is pointed out by other colleagues, that there is that accountability, Honourable Minister, and that we see that there is that accountability to Parliament. We also agree with the Committee's recommendations that the nature of the Special Defence Account must be evaluated, given that there's approximately 3.46 billion in that fund. And we as the ACDP appreciate that the Department explained that the annual rollovers in that fund do not mean that the funds are available, because they have already been committed to various projects. But this is an issue that the committee needs a comprehensive briefing on. Now, as far as the defence review is concerned, we support the defence review, but of course it must be properly implemented and Parliament needs to look at it carefully, and again to ensure that there is sufficient funding available to ensure that and to see what type of defence force do we need in the future. We see also from that Special Defence Fund a reprioritisation of 341 million, so it does mean that it can take place. So one needs to look carefully what reprioritisation can take place within the Defence Force's budget. So, Chairperson, from our side, we wish to thank all the members that are here, the members of the Defence Force, many of them that have offered the supreme sacrifice of giving their lives for our nation. And we as the ACDP will support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Swart. I'll now call Honourable Pongo.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, Chairperson of the committee, senior government officials, veterans of the struggle for the reparation, ladies and gentlemen. I just forgot to bring the shoes of my wife like the other honorable there. But I indeed rise to support the budget vote number 22. Chairperson, guided by the Freedom Charter, where it says, I quote, "There shall be peace and friendship." The Freedom Charter further states that South Africa shall strive to maintain the world peace and the settlement of all international disputes by negotiations, not war. The African National Congress, in its 53rd conference, resolved on the second phase of South Africa's transition from the apartheid colonialism to a national democratic society. At the core of this second phase is a concerted drive to eradicate poverty, fight unemployment, and reduce inequality in the lives of our people. Part of the key role that the department is engaged in is building a united and a democratic South Africa that will take its rightful place as a sovereign state amongst the family of nations. The socio-economic role played by the South African National Defence Force should indeed be located within the context of the ANC-led government trying to neutralize the effect of the past special apartheid framework. In support, Chair, of the medium-term strategic framework growth path initiative aimed at job creation, the South African National Defence Force has endeavored to create jobs within the defence industry. The military skill development system is a service that supports the rejuvenation of the department's human resource renewal strategy and a feeder system to the South African Defence Force rejuvenation. Chairperson, according to the Defence Review, a broader contribution to national development may include the following inter alia: military based in outlining areas providing employment and improved economic profile in the rural communities. The utilization of reserves in the rural communities. Reserves with special skills and experience can be utilized to assist the development of projects. The Defence Force can be tasked to tender now, as opposed to before, some community and specific community-related projects in our rural communities. The Defense Review asserts that the Defense Force has an inherent ability to support the economic activities in our country, arising from its needs to procure normal consumables, to purchase some of the commercial standard equipment and vehicles. The National Development Plan Chairperson reinvigorates the state's role in producing the specialized technical skills to fulfill its core functions. And it further elaborates about the state ability to purchase what it needs on time, the quality, and for the right price to deliver on its priorities. In his State of the Nation address, Honorable President J.J. Zuma emphasized on the local procurement that will promote domestic production, that will also increase state having to buy from the local products up to 75% of goods and services. His Excellency, Honorable President J.J. Zuma, also elaborated by what the Minister has said, that we will continue to resolve regional and continental crises to ensure that there is peace and stability and security in the continent. There is, Chairperson, a secondary scientific benefit that the SANDF is engaged in, which is also supported by the Armaments Corporations of South Africa. Of importance out of this, Chairperson, it's the research and development body of the Armaments Corporations of South Africa. Chairperson, I think to all the members of the opposition that have already spoken, I just want to sum them in one to say that the ANC is the only organization that has documents and that can implement all its activities the way it is documented. So it may be very important to know that members of particularly the DA and the EFF to read about the National Democratic Revolution as the ANC speaks about it. Because at the center of that revolution, is a creation of non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, united and prosperous country. So all of you has a role to play in this democratic revolution that we're in. I hear the honorable member of the EFF speaking about shame, saying there is a shame in the Defense Force. The member was part of the Defense Force and she ran away. She ran away because of the serious charges that were serious charges. She has been stealing laptops, charges of assault, charges of fraud. So she had to run away and come to this parliament as a rescue. So there's no contribution that...
Point of order, Chair. That is an aspersion against an honourable member. It is not permissible, Chairperson.
Order. Honourable member, I will request you to withdraw the accusation.
I withdraw, Chair.
Let's continue.
So generally, as we want to extend as the African National Congress an invitation to all the members of the opposition to join the African National Congress because of its strategic vision and its strategic objective, that of ensuring that we don't push a race card, we pursue a struggle of non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, united, and a prosperous South Africa. Honorable Chairperson, once more I would like to say this, that as the African National Congress, we adopt and support the budget vote number 22. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Order. Thank you very much, Honorable Pongo. So, Biza Ilunga, Ilson Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, my verskoning, ek was net in 'n warm debat by grondsake, maar ek is daarom al rustig. Agbare minister, ek kan vir u vra, Hoeveelste jaar is dit nou al dat ons in hierdie debat kom en almal saamstem dat daar is 'n tekort aan geld? Lyk my daar is 'n probleem met die vertalings.
Honorable Chair, can the minister be given a chance?
Hoeveel jaar het ons nou al gekom en gesê daar is 'n tekort in terme van die begroting van verdediging? Maar niks gebeur nie. Ek wil vandag vir julle sê daar is net een goeie waarde wat gekom het van die verdedigingsoorsig en dit is om te sê ons het eintlik 2.4% van die BBP nodig om ons werk te kan doen. Ons is tans ongeveer op 1.4. Dis die werklikheid. Ek wil vandag vir u sê, u regering, die ANC, het nie die politieke wil om fondse beskikbaar te stel vir die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag nie. Dit is die werklikheid. Want na soveel jaar is ons nog presies waar ons was. Ek wil vandag vir u sê, ons is besig om die weermag af te gradeer na 'n tipe van 'n grenswag wat patrollies kan doen. Dis waarmee ons besig is. En ons moet die vingers na onsself wys. U het verwys na dissipline toe u gepraat het. Agbare minister, ek het in hierdie selfde debat gepraat oor dissipline. Nou wil ek vandag vir u vra. As 3 van u topgeneraals, die hoof van die weermag, hoof van die lugmag en dan die sekretaris van verdediging, hulle eenvoudig net afvee aan 'n hofbevel om in die hof te verskyn, minagtend is. Hoe kan u verwag dat die mense op die grondvlak dissipline moet hê? U weet die taak van die weermag is om die soewereiniteit van ons land te beskerm. Deel van daardie soewereiniteit is ons grondwet. Ons is 'n regstaat, they call it a rule of law, but they ignore the rule of law. Ek beskou dit as skandalig. En u kan nou wel kom en sê, maar hulle het nie persoonlik bewus gewees daarvan nie. Dan wil ek vir u vra, wat gaan aan in die departement? Hoe kan hulle nie dan daarvan weet nie? Dis 'n swak voorbeeld. Wat het geword vir die kolonel met haar pink pantoffels, agbare minister? Sy is nie behoorlik aangespreek nie. Sy is maar net eenvoudig suidelings uitgeskuif, maar sy gaan net eenvoudig aan. Hier sit 'n agbare lid voor my.
Honorable Groenewald, please wait a minute, Honorable.
Is die agbare lid bereid om 'n vraag te vat?
As ek tyd het, maar ek het bitter min tyd, dan kan die agbare lid sy vraag vra. Laat ek net klaarmaak. Hier sit 'n agbare lid hierso voor my. Sy was aangekla en skuldig bevind vir wangedrag in die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag. Is daar teen haar opgetree? Sy is maar net eenvoudig suidelings uitgerangeer en vandag het sy nou hierso gekom en dan kom vertel sy vir u wat gaan aan in die weermag. Die werklikheid is, agbare minister, as u wil dissipline hê in die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag,
point of order, is that an
moet die senior offisiere die voorbeeld stel.
Point of order, Chair.
Honorable Pilane Majak.
Chairperson, is it parliamentary for the member to really question the character of people without really having enough information?
Honorable Groenewald, can you withdraw just as another member?
Ek verstaan nie wat moet ek terugtrek hier, agbare voorsitter. Ek het nie op iemand se integriteit weerspieël wat die werklikheid is nie. Ek meen ek het nie haar integriteit aangepas nie. Sy het wangedra en sy
Just to quickly explain, it's about the generals. You talked about the generals from a matter that is before the courts. The courts of law will decide, and you actually also went on
Honorable
to...
Majak, I have not asked you to speak.
Point of order, Chair. Duidelik weer die agbare lid nie wat aangaan nie. Dis 'n saak wat reeds afgehandel is. Dis die werklikheid. Dis 'n bevinding. So ek haal net 'n bevinding aan.
Honorable Groenewald.
Point of order, Chair.
I can hear you. Honorable Groenewald, please wait a minute. Honorable member, your
Chair,
point of order.
I'll just request the Honorable Groenewald to just withdraw the entirety of his contribution. It was wrong. You can't be naming people like that.
Please sit down, Honorable member. Honorable Groenewald, you don't have to withdraw your whole speech. the inferences to the honorable member is that area that I would like you to throw.
Agbare voorsitter, ek dink dit is 'n groot doop as ek dink ek gaan my toespraak terugtrek. Ek weier selfs om hierdie aantuiging wat ek gemaak het terug te trek. Ek weier om dit terug te trek en jy kan my maar uitjaag, want die waarheid is die waarheid. Dit is reeds 'n bevinding wat gemaak is. Dis mos nie iets wat ek sê wat nog gaan gebeur nie.
Honorable Groenewald, you are defying the chair.
Agbare voorsitter, ek sal sommer self die raad verlaat. U hoef nie vir my te vra om te verlaat.
Thank you very much, Honorable Groenewald. I think the honorable member had an intention to be thrown out of the house. It's fine. I will now call Ilungelhon Pegiluisa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, members of the Defence Force, respected guests, and especially our military veterans. This budget of the Department of Military Veterans received a whopping increase of 43.5%, from 351 million to 504 million, mainly due to benefits that have to be issued. However, we know that this budget could not be spent effectively because there was a late transfer from National Treasury of 300 million to this department, and therefore the performance at the end of the third quarter reflected only 20% of expenditure of spent budget because of a late transfer, and most of the money had to be carried over into the new financial year. However, my concern is that this is a ship without a captain. A department without a DG is certainly not the ideal scenario to navigate the stormy waters of this fairly new department, which is still under construction and in shambles, which I will corroborate. To add to these woes, the Deputy Director General, who is responsible for corporate services, human resources, finance, IT, all the ICT, all the other issues, has also been placed on special leave with the DG, who is the accounting authority, as a direct result of an internal audit report. Indeed, we'd like this investigation to be concluded speedily and the matter to be resolved. As noted, we appreciate the Honourable Minister indicating that PwC has submitted the final report on the 18th of July, and we therefore await from the Honourable Minister a briefing of this committee and also a tabling of the report that we can move forward. This ministry's funds have been skewed since inception in favor of administrative tasks and personnel. The concern I have is the capacity and competency of these employees, because so many fundamental tasks have not been completed, which have a direct bearing on the delivery of services and benefits to military veterans. These fundamental tasks include, of course, norms and standards, policies, regulations have finally been gazetted on the 19th of February, frameworks and guidelines, service level agreements, memorandum of understanding, systems, particularly the ICT system, databases and CPRs, and therefore consultants have been employed to some of these tasks because of lack of internal capacity. So there's a lack of a regulatory environment in this particular department. The concerns I have in the budget refers also to allocations for compensation of employees, subsistence and travel, food and entertainment, consumables, consultants, training and development, advertising and communication. If one look at those particular elements, then one find that there's a staff of 87, according to the National Treasury, it's 63. And we look at the staff, that's a staff complement, compensation amounts to 92.2 million. We're looking at travel and subsistence, 487 people at 52.2 million. We're looking at entertainment, which has three different categories. Catering, departmental activities, entertainment, inventory for food supplies, which amounts to 5.5 million. Advertising, communications has doubled, which we expect to have doubled, but unfortunately, it is one of the priorities which have been non-functional or dysfunctional. Consumables like stationery and printing is 2 million for a department of 87 or 63 persons. And so consultants are being employed at 62 million. We understand that, no, it is also being used for military veterans, but there's no operational plan, no business plan, no evidence-based approach to explain to us the split between departmental work and between that which is of benefit and service to the military veterans. The maximum benefit of these allocations must be in the interest of deserving veterans and their dependents, and not to fund a bloated administration. We would like to see a highly effective, efficient, lean administration run by a highly competent, professional, mean machine. No bells, no frills, get on with the job. However, this administration should also question itself based on its own policies regarding its transformation and the employment equity within the institution. The department reported in its quarterly report of Q2 and Q3, both quarters, the challenges that impacted on performance of the department. One, inadequate technical competencies, essential for program implementation. The issue of inadequate support staff puts undue pressure on the whole department. Continued non-compliance to timelines. This includes submitting statutory accountability documents. This includes backlog on ministerial inquiries. This includes branches that are not sending reports for follow-up meetings with the Chief of Defense, the Min-Exco and the Exco. This includes also the department session where the Executive Authority, the Honourable Minister, is still outstanding on statutory submissions. It also lacks provincial offices. That means there's a central office only, and the military veterans cannot access it in all the various provinces and in all the various municipalities. There's inadequate infrastructure. The non-functioning of the department's toll-free line. This poses a challenge. It's considered priority number 8. However, it is a total failure and cause of complaint by most military veterans. Of late, we've seen some improvement, but so much money has been spent on the call center that has not been effective. The dependency on service delivery agencies, and there we have a number of MOLs or SLs and MOUs are still outstanding, and that's very essential in actually delivering and giving benefits to military veterans. When are all these documents in place in order to execute and the benefits to be issued to military veterans? We find also that this department wants to now migrate all these responsibilities and competencies to the department. I think this portfolio committee deserves to be apprised of this issue, and also a cost-benefit analysis needs to be submitted before that consideration can be considered seriously. In fact, this department sums up its own risk as follows. One, the CG +1 is adequately skilled and dependable human capital. That's lacking in the department. Inadequate IT infrastructure, non-adherence to ID covenants. Now that's very serious because it breaches also security.
Your time has expired.
7 minutes.
Thank you.
I thought they can give notice on it too. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Isao. Tlabisali Lukule Khabane Gamet.
Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, Honourable Members, all the guests. Chairperson, I'll ask for your indulgence. One, I want to read a court judgment from the Navy spokesperson. Lieutenant Commander Prince Shabalala said, Litchfield Shabalala faced 4 charges. These included assault, ill treatment, a subordinate, fraud, and crime and injury. He then refused to elaborate. Litchfield Shabalala was convicted and fined in the Tabanchu Military Court in Pretoria. She had resigned before the outcome of the case. I therefore rest my case, Chair, on this matter that Honourable Bongo raised.
Honorable Chairperson, I rise on a point of order.
Thank you. Honorable Committee, please wait a minute. Honorable Litchfield, your point of order.
May he please get his facts right. I never resigned from the Defence Force.
What is the point of
case.
order?
He must, when he talks about
Honorable
somebody,
Litchfield.
he needs to be informed of the
Honorable
facts.
Litchfield, the Honorable Member Kamete was reading a ruling of the court that would request that he submit to the table when it's done. So, thank you very much. Honorable Kamete, please continue.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. I'll oblige. I will oblige. Yeah, okay. Now I'll oblige and submit that. It's a court judgment. Secondly, Chair, Honorable Litchfield Shabalala has, I'm doing my speech, huh? Okay? You just have to listen and learn. Has got a history of double.
Address the House, Honorable Kamete, and don't disregard.
Thanks. Okay. She has misled this House by saying the Department of Defense has got more money than even education and social development. I have with me here the budget for the Department of Treasury, which states that defense has got 47.9 billion, social services 744, education 253, health 145, and housing 142. So these are facts.
Chairperson, I rise on a point of order again.
What is the point of order, Honorable?
The point of order is that he's taking both primary education and higher education together.
Honorable Litchfield, please
I
sit down.
separated
Honorable
them in my
Litchfield.
speech.
It's not order, that one.
On a point of order, Chair.
Honorable Manana.
Chairperson, in this country, when the president decided to split the Department of Education, he said there will be the Department of Basic Education and Higher Education and Training. We don't have a Department of Primary Education in South Africa.
Thank you, Honorable Manana. Order.
Okay, thanks, Chairperson.
Honorable Kamete, please continue.
There are a lot of house calls that one must do, but let me do the important thing first. The ANC supports the budget, and it supports it with a big smile. When we as the ANC say that we have a good story to tell, we mean it. The reality is that most things are now better than they were prior to 1994. The fact that you can see black people today being members of the DA, formerly the DP, is testimony. They were not allowed before to be members. Now, thanks to the ANC, they can join any party. Secondly, thanks to the ANC.
Enough order, Chair.
Secondly,
Honorable Kamete, order. Honorable Kamete, please hold.
That point of order, Chair. I think the honorable member is misleading the House. For him to make an assertion that it's because of the ANC that there are black DA members, that's a frivolous. That's
sit
a
down,
frivolous
honorable
assertion. That's nonsense.
Please sit down. Honorable Kamete.
Thanks, Chair. Secondly, thanks to the ANC that today we have SNDF that is based on the will of the people. It is united, patriotic, regardless of the fact that it is made out of both statutory and non-statutory forces. Only the ANC can do that. Their conviction is South Africa first. I wish the opposition can learn something from them. If you look into the aims and objectives of the ANC, for those who are
Chair,
not privy
Chair.
to ANC gatherings.
Chair.
There are 9 of them.
Honorable Mulebas.
I'm sorry, Chair. The honorable member of the EFF is eating in the chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Mulebas. Honorable member. Order. Honorable members. Honorable members. Order. To all of you, honorable members. You are not allowed to bring food into the chamber or to any session of EPCs. If you want to eat, you eat outside. It's only water that's allowed here. I'm speaking, honorable member. You listen, because you'll be doing the same thing tomorrow. Any of the members, I don't care from which party you belong to, you don't bring in food here. Even if you're sitting at the back there, it's still within this honorable house. Food of any kind is not allowed in their house. Thank you. Honorable Kamede.
Point of order, Chair. Is it parliamentary for the honorable member to point at another honorable member?
The very honorable other member is also pointing. Please sit down.
Oh, so your role as a chairperson is to
down.
Is to regulate.
Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down, honorable member. The very honorable member you're protecting is the one who pointed fingers first. Thank you very much. Honorable Kamete, continue with your speech.
The first aim of the ANC was to unite the people of South Africa. The second being to end apartheid so that every South African citizen can vote. We've gone past that. We all now vote. But still, as the ANC, we still have the challenge of uniting the people of South Africa. I can go on and go on. The sixth aim is to promote economic growth for all to benefit. The eighth is being to support and defend national liberation, world peace, etc. The point is, so far, we have achieved freedom. Hence, we say, yinde lendlela, or the journey is long, that we still have to travel. We say this because some people fear when we say the struggle continues. Now, let me confine myself to South Africa's role in peacekeeping missions in the region and in Africa. The ANC-led government is aware that a peaceful Africa will mean a peaceful South Africa. In fact, let me remind and inform other honorable members that might not know that prior to 1994, Africa was home to the ANC. In fact, other countries had to suffer dearly for hosting the ANC in their countries. South Africa will continue to support regional and continental conflict resolution and peacekeeping missions as it does in the DRC and Darfur, etc. As it also did in CAR. Even though this has a serious strain on the DOD's budget, but we as a country are duty-bound to assist. South Africa's resolve to promote peace, security, and development on the continent will be demonstrated through unambiguous policy statements, the propositioning of forces, and the contribution of South African forces to various forms of peace missions. In terms of NDP 2030, South Africa should place particular emphasis on combating maritime piracy along the east coast of Africa, so that the SA Navy must continue to focus on the preparation of the naval forces for operations in support of maritime security strategy including patrols. SNDF is currently deployed in the DRC as part of the UN Force Intervention Brigade, Honorable Maina. which has contributed to the demise of the then prominent M23 rebels. Whilst challenges of stability remain in the area, it is clear that the SNDF played an active role in contributing to the broader stability in the Eastern DRC. Funding for the SNDF's foreign missions reflect this as a priority, given that the bulk of Program 2, which is force employment allocation, is allocated to regional security sub-program. This program is further set to increase over the MTEF period from 1.47 billion in 14-15 to 1.81 billion 2016-17. Whilst the developmental benefits of participation in peace missions are evident, it is crucial that the SNDF structure the rest of the program accordingly to ensure an effective air bridge between deployed SNDF forces and their home bases. Chairperson, the contribution of the SNDF peacetime activities often goes unnoticed and unreported. South Africa plays a leading role in contributing to peace missions. However, funding for all these purposes is under increasing pressure. As such, overall financial allocation should be aligned to the strategic objectives of the government. Despite the financial challenges, the SNDF continues to fulfill its role relatively effectively, and it is clear that it plays a significant role in a developmental state. Chairperson, Honorable Minister, through you, Chairperson, there are two issues that this committee will be seized with this term. One will be the transformation in the Department of Defense, generally, especially in the South African Air Force, where it seems we haven't moved that much. This includes appointment of women and people with disabilities in strategic positions. Two is to make it a point that the HDRs are part of the beneficiaries in the defense procurement. On the real procurement deals, you know, Honorable Minister, the real procurement deals, not the cleaning and the gardening and so on, the real defense procurement deals. There are, Honorable Chairperson, let me deal with other matters as raised by other honorable members. When we say the ANC, with these 20 years of ANC rule, we can tell a good story. We wonder what story the other side can tell from 1910 to 1993. It must be a horrible story, and very horrible story. The story of apartheid, the story of oppression, the story of killings, and the story of a lot of murders. Now, in coming to the cause of the House, even Honorable Minor speaks in folk tongues. As he opens his mouth, he congratulates the SA soldiers for doing a good job. And in the same vein, he says the soldiers aren't doing it. They are killing people, just like the M23 rebels. That's speaking in folk tongues. As he performs to the media and the gallery and speaks of leaked documents.
Honorable Kamete.
Chair,
Honorable.
The honourable member is well known for listening with his mouth and not his ears. I did not say what he claimed he said.
Honorable Kamete, please continue.
Let me give you another hypnosis. In this honourable House, my analysis is we have ANC members on my left. Those are pure ANC members. And on the right, you can find former ANC members, those that might have been defeated in conferences and left, and those that might have been ill-disciplined and expelled. And then you find anti-ANC members on the far right, that side. So we all have a little bit of ANC in ourselves, you know. Pure ANC, former ANC, and so on. On the other end, Honourable Chairperson.
On a point of order.
Honourable Maynard.
Chair, the Honourable Member's speech is so abysmal, it drives me to want something more than water to get through it.
Chairperson, when we were adopting the report and the budget of the department in the committee, there was one person came in running when the chairperson had closed the meeting. And the chairperson was under the impression that maybe he was a technician.
You have 2 minutes.
Because of the way he dressed and the way he looked. Only to find that he was an honorable member of the EFF. And he raised his hand and said he wants to object when the meeting is closed, object to the budget. And the chairperson asked him, why object? He said, no, I was told to come here and object. So this is what we come across in meetings. Honourable Mngwango, we appreciate that you support the budget as usual. We come with you from KwaZulu-Natal. Definitely we thank you that you support the budget as well as the NFP. Honourable Holomisa would have appreciated that he supports the budget, which means we are not going to have a coup because he supports the budget, the department.
You are out of order.
Oh, you are here, General. Thanks very much, General. I didn't notice you. At least we are safe. There's no coup that's going to happen. Honourable Swart, thanks very much for supporting. Well, Honourable Groenewald, I had something that I had to say why we have a problem in the Western Cape. Because all the generals in 1993 assembled in the Cape Town, and they wanted to stop democracy. They went to all these places, George, all these military places. That is why we see this behavior from Honourable Groenewald. The ANC supports the budget. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kamete. Before I call on the Honourable Minister, I just want to thank members and whips of all parties here who have submitted and considered to give the Minister back her 7 minutes so that she can wrap up. Thank you for that. Thank you to all. It is, however, not a precedent. We will take this one, but it is not precedent. Thank you very much for that, Honourable Minister.
Dangerous President, thank you very much. I want to thank all members who have participated in this debate. And I value the inputs you have made. Your contributions are very useful, and they will help sharpen our tools of analysis and resolution to some of the challenges that we have in the Defence Force. I also would want to say that the part which I had not finished in my speech is a matter which has since been covered by Honourable Esau and Honourable Swartz, that the matter of the budget of the Department of Military Veterans, actually it is insufficient. And I am glad that Honourable Swartz, you have reminded honourable members that Parliament has an obligation when it is necessary for it to do so, to raise these matters of budget which is insufficient for the Defence Force. We can't run the Defence Force like we are running a small cop shop. We've got to think strategically. It is not about a year, 2 years. We've got to look at the long-term implications. We are now reaping the decisions which we took after 1994. We've had, no, just wait now. Because we had to deal with the pressing socio-economic challenges which were there for the majority of South Africans who had no access to infrastructure and the basic needs of ordinary human beings. And we've had to move a budget away from the Defense Force. Now the time has come 20 years down the line, now that we've conducted a defense review, that because we've finished cleaning up a bit of the mess, not 100% of the mess that some of you left. So now that we're done with that, we now have to divert some of the funds to the defense review processes in order to capacitate our defense force and ensure that we have all the capabilities that we need. But I also want to say that we're working very well. We're about to launch what is called the Defense Industry Council, which hopefully will strengthen the relations between ourselves and the defense industry in this country. Now, everybody else, everybody in the country, commentators, analysts, have supported. In fact, there's a national consensus around the defense review. You are the only one with in your song and dance who's out of tune, who did not get it right, who did not get it right this time. You didn't get it right. And consensus is agreement. By everybody.
Don't respond to them.
By everybody, minus him. Because the Democratic Alliance on this matter, I'm surprised actually. I'm total. You are saying the process. You're saying the process was flawed, and therefore the outcome is flawed. I'm completely surprised, and I think a number of people will wonder what exactly you mean by that. And I'm saying you are out of tune. You are not in tune with the rest. You are not moving with the tide in the country on this one. I also would like to say that on the matter of the special defense account, Honorable Mainir, and I don't know if that's the position of your Democratic Alliance, that you want a special defense account, which suddenly today is very transparent to you, to the South African public, and to and I want to say to you, you are being mischievous. I won't go beyond that. You are being extremely mischievous and reckless, and I think that you should go back and think twice about this. Now, on the matter of discipline, I'm sorry that General Honorable Member Groenewald left the chamber. There may be differences there and there, but I can assure you, one of the people I know for sure, because I chaired a joint standing committee on intelligence for years, and he was a member of that committee, and he continues to be a member of defense. He's an asset, actually, to Parliament on matters of defense. I'm just sorry that he had to leave, because I was keen to hear some of his views on some of these matters. The matter of the generals here behind me, the Chief of the Defense Force, Air Force, and Secretary of Defense, is a matter which has since been responded to, and I don't want to enter into that discussion because the matter now is prima facie, what do you call it? Sub judice. It is sub judice, and I would rather we leave it to the courts to deal with it. And I would like to thank all of you for supporting our budget. I think all of us should agree that the debates are improving by the day. I found that the debate which we've had today was very constructive, has really assisted me and the generals behind me here to deal with some of the things which you have raised. Now, lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the AMSCO board, which is here. We have a new AMSCO board, as you would know, and I know that they are here, and I must say that they have been extremely supportive to us. So far, there's been regular interaction, and I really look forward to working with them. And I want to thank the entire management of the Department of Military Veterans, but also to thank this team of generals. They may have some shortcomings, They may have some weaknesses, but I can assure you that it is a winning team. And I would like to commend them. I'd like to commend them for the work they have been doing to give us all the support which we require with the Deputy Minister. Lastly, I would like to thank the Portfolio Committee for your support. We may not have appeared before the committee, but by the way you said I've not appeared before the joint state, I can't impose myself on you. If you call me and say, Minister, on such and such a date, we expect you to appear before the committee, I will oblige, I will do so. But I cannot just walk into a committee meeting and say, I'm here, what do you want me to tell you? I can't do that. So take it, it's your problem, it's your problem. I will take the initiative. One of the reasons why we decided in 1994 that we should have a civilian secretariat and have that person as the accounting officer, it was precisely to do away with this thing of expecting generals to appear before the Portfolio Committee every now and then. Yes. As far as what I know, Minister, the Secretary of Defense has appeared before the committee on several occasions. Yes.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable
Your
Member.
time is expired.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister, the committee for a vigorous engagement and debate. Please sit down. Members are reminded that the debate on the Presidency's budget vote will take place in the National Assembly Thanks for co-chairing. The debate on the President's budget vote will take place in the National Assembly at 14 hours. I want to thank also my co-chairperson, the House Chair, and this then concludes the debate and business of this extended public committee. The committee will now rise.